Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Jessica DiRuzza, and I am here to share everything that is on my heart and my mind about this April 8th total solar eclipse at 19 degrees Aries. A total solar eclipse is when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, and the moon goes over the sun, entirely covering it. This total solar eclipse at 19 degrees Aries, a new moon, is going to be seen throughout a lot of North America and the path of totality through Mexico and the United States. There's a lot of really big energy around this eclipse. I'm noticing it being in the media and the news more than any other eclipse that I have seen. I think the collective consciousness is able to tune in more to astronomical phenomena like eclipses. So I'm really excited as an astrologer that humanity continues to waken up to this really precious time and this really special experience that is happening for the entire world. I want to share with you everything that I understand so far about this particular eclipse. And what I'm going to share with you today comes from my understanding of the astrology right now, not just the total solar eclipse, but the rest of everything that's going on astrologically at the same time. And it also comes from my private practice as a psychotherapist, where I do astrology with all of my individual and couple clients that I see from all around the world. And it also comes from my husband, Travis DiRuzza, who's also a professional astrologer. He's been giving a lot of readings, and we've both been noticing this clustering of themes that very much relate to this particular eclipse season. If I had to sum up what this eclipse is about in one sentence, it would be the persistent drive for autonomy. Aries is I am, ruled by the fiery planet of Mars and the first sign in our zodiac, the belt of life. It is the radical bursting forth of the creative, autonomous individual being born out of the cosmos. It's the I being born out of the thou. It creates so much catalytic energy, like nuclear fusion, to be able to create that kind of propulsion to birth new atoms of individuals that become human beings, that are souls from the divine. Aries represents that deep cosmic impulse for individuality and autonomy in service of the co creation with the universe. Libra is we are, that beautiful dialectic of the Aries Libra axis that this particular nodal season is all about. The North Node is in Aries, the South Node in Libra. And so Libra is we are. It's relational, it's interpersonal, and it is so much about finding harmony and balance in relationship with the other and with community. But Aries, which we're going to be focusing on today, because the new moon supercharged total solar eclipse is happening at 19 degrees Aries, conjunct the North Node. To me, this is about the inception point of the individual in their persistent drive for autonomy and creative individuality to even have the possibility of community, to even have the possibility of relationship, to even have the possibility of co creation. Something that I know about human beings is that we all want to be able to feel like we have choice, that we get to make decisions and choose what we want for ourselves and what we want from this life. that agency of free will, that agency of autonomy is everything that Aries is all about. Yes, often in a blind, absolute jubilation. Aries is something that is this radical impulse to create. The I amness of the sheer courageous discovery of going out into the world and having the opportunity of self assertion. Mars, our drive, our willpower for assertion. When human beings feel free to be in their autonomy, to make their own choices instead of being told what to do, then you see a particular freedom. You see the ability for us to, at best, trust one another's intelligence enough as all children of the divine to be able to follow our natural impulses for that persistent drive for autonomy. However, that isn't often what ends up happening, especially in relationship. And we remember that Libra, where the South Node is right now, is all about relationship. And the truth is that every single human being is born out of a relationship by at least, in some form, two humans, two or more humans. Whether or not that one human knows the other or not, there is at least two humans involved in the creation of any single individual. And then the raising of a child is embedded in a relational lunar matrix. And so from go, there is a conditioning that every single human inherits from their family system, from their societal system, from the communities in which they're a part of. And that speaks to the Libra part of the dialectic. And so what we see is, though we have this Aryan persistent drive for autonomy and individuality in the creative act of being human, to have our own choice and to follow our will and to assert ourselves out into the world, no matter how small or how big. The sheer delight in the ability to know what that is, to follow that impulse. We are all given values and moral codes and norms that we inherit from the past, from the relational matrix of the past. Some of those are good and some of those are harmful. And so the thing that Aries is constantly grappling with is how to be an individual in a world that is completely social, as interdependent beings, as the mammalian species that gives birth to children way before they're fully developed enough to take care of themselves. And so the human species is based on dependency because babies are born so small and helpless. They would not survive if they were not fed by another. They would not survive if they were not held, if they were not given attention. And so, at the core of being human is this paradox of the Aries Libra axis: independence and dependence, autonomy and relationality. And we find ourselves within the continuum of that every moment, every day, from the day we're born until the day that we die. And there's a tension there, as there is with any opposition. There's a kind of oscillation, teeter tottering back and forth in the opposition to find how to get to do both in this dance of being human. And so, this total solar eclipse is highlighting the need for every single human being to have that experience of autonomy and what it's doing, because it's exactly conjunct Chiron at 19 degrees Aries right now, is it's extracting the wounds from the past where we felt like we have lost choice in our life. That feeling, that awful feeling of powerlessness, where we've lost some kind of agency, or we feel like we didn't get to assert ourselves and who we truly are. Aries is about who we truly are before we're conditioned to be somebody, right? It's that initial radical impulse of breaking free out of the cosmos into creation. It is the one. And so with Chiron there, the wounded healer, it brings out the poison from the well. It extracts the pain from our past and in our current situation where we feel like we haven't gotten to be an autonomous individual. So, whatever's going on in your life today, if you step back and take notice of what's happening, I would imagine that you're having some version of this recognition of places where maybe either you feel like you've lost yourself, you've lost your ability to assert yourself, you've lost your will or your willpower, or you've lost your courage. These are all Aries themes, right? Aries, ruled by Mars, is the courageous warrior, the fiery, creative, passionate spirit. Or where maybe you've lost your relationship to that deep inner knowing of what it is you actually want and desire, not what the other of all the other people, Libra, in your life want for you. Not your family, not your friends, not your communities, but you. What do you actually want? And this is what Aries has to ask itself over and over and over and over again is what do you want? Not does what does your spouse want, not what your children want, not what your parents want, not what your siblings want, not what your family wants, not what your friends want, not what your boss wants. What do you want? And the truth is that a lot of people actually have a very difficult time answering this question because we're so conditioned in our values and in our identity to think that who we are is defined by all the others in our life. And so this total solar eclipse, which is extremely powerful, is in a very potent, again, supercharged way, taking all of the light of day and honing exactly in those pain points, like trigger points, around where in your life you may have either currently and most likely connected to in your past lost your autonomy, lost your courage, lost your will as a child of the divine who has your own birthright and your own path to walk, your own individual path to walk. Now, I think part of the reason this eclipse is being experienced so powerfully by the collective is because I think that there's a good chance that there are a lot more people paying attention this time. I notice that every time there is an astronomical phenomenon, more humans are paying attention, whether that's meteor showers or eclipses, visibility of planets. And so the thing is, what we know about consciousness is that the more humans that pay attention to something, the stronger that thing becomes, whatever it is. Well, when it comes to astrology, once we start paying attention to astrology, the more powerful and alive it becomes in our own life. And the more humans on the planet that are paying attention to the astronomy or the astrology, the more powerful it also becomes in the collective consciousness. And so, this total solar eclipse, I think, in part, is more powerful because there's an increasing dawning of awareness that this is happening. And more humans are starting to say, not only do I maybe want to pay attention to it, to see it visibly if I can, but to also ask the question, I wonder what this means. And so, as someone who has my North Node in Aries, this is my nodal return, which happens once every 18 years for all of us. And I also have my moon in Aries. So, this solar eclipse is conjunct my North Node in the first house in Aries and my moon in the first house in Aries. And so I'm feeling it very, very, very strongly. And what it's showing me is that when I feel at my best is when I am able to feel tethered to my ability to choose for myself what it is I want, what it is I want to do, when I want to do it, and how I want to do it. And what I know about Aries people is that they are in a lifelong experience of getting to understand what it's like to choose for themselves their life and what it's like when they fall out of that experience and the profound suffering and agony that comes from that loss of autonomy. When I work with Aries folks who've lost their autonomy, because they had a tyrannical father, or they had an indoctrinated religious upbringing, or they were told not to be queer, or they were told whatever it is they were being told, not to be neurodiverse, whatever it is. And there has been a loss of that ability to choose for themselves. The excruciating suffering that comes from that, and then the journey back home to self of rediscovering, wait a second, who am I, not defined by other. And so this total solar eclipse in Aries is bringing that forward, not just for every Aries or people who have planets in Aries. Yes, this would make this one stronger for you, but for every single human being. And so what are some symptoms we might see when we feel like we've lost that drive for autonomy? Okay, anger. Anger is a very common response when it comes to Aries. It's fire, it's Mars, right? Anger, frustration, irritability, these are all symptoms of, in this case, a loss of autonomy or individuality and that agency to make choice of self assertion. So, people right now, where the more that they've lost that autonomy, what we're seeing is a greater reactionary state of anger. And part of what comes with that, when we feel powerless, when we feel small, when we feel like we've lost choice or agency, is it's very human to start to fight and go into battle, which is also what Aries can do. And it goes into battle. And one way it can do that, other than yelling and name calling, is it can blame. And so there's this finger pointing of, no, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. And a defensiveness, which is also part of Aries. And I am absolutely part of that club with my moon in Aries, is a defensiveness that whenever we feel um, accused, or that we've made a mistake, or that we're wrong in some way, we are so quick to go into battle and fight, right? Because in part, we do carry that warrior energy. But when there's an attack of some kind, emotional, verbal, psychological, the Aries impulse, and this is true for everyone right now, which is why things are more heated and eruptive than they usually are, and chaotic and frenetic and all over the place and disruptive, is because people tend to be in this reactive, F you, I'm going to get you now. You come for me, I come for you. And it has a very like eye for an eye quality to it. And that is like a primitive, way that every human can experience and express this energy. Now, anger is so important for Aries and for all of us right now because we know that anger shows us where our boundaries have been crossed. And our boundaries are the edge of the sense of self. And we remember what I said earlier about Aries being the birth of the self. It's the birth of the self. And so anger shows us where the edge of self has been crossed, either by other in an invasive way, or by us not taking responsibility and having the boundaries that we need placed, or not knowing how to have the boundaries in place to take care of ourselves and to protect ourselves. Because here's the thing about that persistent drive for autonomy, and this is part of the Mars Saturn conjunction in the sky right now that's coming through in what I'm saying. But I also think it's a mature expression of Aries, which is when you are autonomous, what comes with it is a profound responsibility for your actions, for all of your actions. So, if you want to be autonomous, then there's also that responsibility that comes with that autonomy. And what I often see in folks where there's been a loss of autonomy for whatever reason is first the anger, then the mourning and the grief, and then the coming back into one's power of choice and saying, you know what? I actually have a choice to do this differently. Knowing what I know now, knowing where my edge of self is, where my boundaries are, and what I need to protect myself, and to assert my will to protect those boundaries for myself and for those around me in an ethic of care, which is an elevated version of Libra in relationship. Harmony and balance that comes from a deep ethic of care, of right relation. Not false pretending, not placating, not pleasing, not fawning, but right relation that can only come from the inside, Aries, of the individual, out, Libra. And that's where Libra is the scales of justice, of balance. But it has to first come from the inside. And so we remember after the anger and then the mourning and the grief is that we have power and we have choice. And the more autonomous we want to be, i.e., the less we want people to tell us what to do, which is what's up right now for all of us, the more responsibility we have to take for our lives. And so, my question for you and for all of us and for myself is, are you willing to do what it takes to take that Saturnian responsibility to have that Aries autonomy of self possession and control of whatever your situation is right now in your life, wherever you find yourself? Or are we going to kick and scream and throw that Aries tantrum, right? Because Aries is very like a toddler, not in control yet of their emotional regulation, having very big emotions, lots of reaction. And there's a beauty in that. There's even a purity in that, just it all coming through. However, as adults in relationship, in community, how we react and respond with our emotional regulation impacts everybody around us. That's just the fact of it, of being relational social creatures. And so, are we going to kick and scream and throw that tantrum? Or are we going to say, wait a second, what is my part here? And this is the Aries. What is my part here in contributing to this situation, whatever it may be? And it's not about I'm right, they're wrong, or they're right and I'm wrong. That's very dualistic and black and white. That's not what it's about. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's actually about, am I taking care of myself? Am I being honest with myself? Am I being truthful about who I am, where I'm at, and what I need in order to keep that persistent drive for autonomy that Aries needs? So, this total solar eclipse is saying with Chiron, hey, you know, all those painful places in your life where you lost choice, where you lost you, where maybe you're not in touch with what it is you want, or you're in situations that you don't want to be in that either feel icky, bad, gross, or just not in alignment. Like it just doesn't feel like you, right? Aries is meanness, like me, that precious, precious me that the divine birthed into the cosmos, right? And that's where it's a sacred right. We don't have relationship without the individual. We don't have relationship without you. And yet, what is right for you, truly right for you, in right relation and ethics of integrity, coming from the inside out, we get into a place with the Aries Libra where we come into a deeper level of truth, which is what is for my highest good, I trust is for your highest good. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels eruptive, and that I'm actually only responsible for me, and you are responsible for you. And this starts to work on some of those shadow dimensions of Libra, which we can just kind of shortcut into saying codependency, the self sacrifice of the self, the abandonment of self in a false sense of service to the other, to caretake the other, to protect the other, to not hurt the other while we're hurting ourselves, to not cause harm to the other, but willing to cause harm to ourselves. Right? That enabling codependency, which is the shadow side of Libra. Well, the Chiron conjunct the solar eclipse in Aries is like, hey, 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 wherever that entanglements might be going on in your life, you have a sole responsibility for both your part in that and the remembrance that you have a choice to do it differently if you so choose. And getting the beautiful Libra relational support, and this is what how Libra, in one way that Libra supports Aries, is that beautiful relational support to come back to self, to come back to center, to come back to your will and your autonomy. Who are you? What do you want? Let me see you, let me support you and celebrate you in that process. Not power over, but power with. And I'm going to say this, where we see the absolute root of this issue of hierarchical domination, power, and control begins always in the parent child relationship. The truth is that the parent has such a godlike kind of power with the child. All of our parents have a godlike power over us as children and into our adulthood. And because of that truth, that then is also the magnitude of the responsibility that the parent has for taking care of that child's need for their persistent drive for autonomy, while simultaneously holding the paradox of the tension of opposites of how to be in loving, safe, kind relationship. Where instead of the parent speaking down to the child, you do this, you be like this, and the threat of, or I'll spank you, or I won't love you anymore, or you'll be excommunicated from this family if you don't give me what I want right now, dot, 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 fill in the blank. Almost every human has experienced this unless they come from that rare gem of a family where that need for compliance and stripping our need for autonomy is happening. And why is that? This all relates back to this total solar eclipse. Why is that? Research shows that when a parent goes to physically abuse a child or verbally abuse a child, either through spanking, hitting, or even yelling at their children, that what it's doing is in that moment, a parent feels powerless or they've lost control of the situation with their child. Likely, in that flash of a moment, they regress to somewhere in their childhood, and this is the Chiron, where the wound has happened. And this is the moon Chiron in Aries, part of the total solar eclipse. And it is so painful because they either were punished for the same thing or weren't shown that it was okay to have feelings. It wasn't okay to be angry. It wasn't okay to have a voice, whatever it was. And the parent feels so out of control that they yell or hit at the child to momentarily release that feeling of powerlessness and to regain a sense of control and power over the child. domination. Our entire human society is built off of this fundamental pattern of relating between the parent and the child. A new moon, which is what the solar eclipse is the radical ending of a cycle and the radical beginning of a cycle. And with Chiron there, it's also the paradox of the wound and the healing. So let's remember that the regression to our childhood, the anger that we're feeling, the places we feel powerless are all opportunities for us to come into a place of healing and wholeness, which is the other part of what Chiron wants. It's the extraction from the poison from the well in order to be with, to see, to witness, to feel, to grieve, whatever it may be, to bring us into greater wholeness, into healing, into connection with those aspects of self that didn't get to be online as a child or didn't get to be online in your life right now, right? And that loss of autonomy. The radical need for freedom is so massive right now because of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction going on at the same time that any place that any single one of us feels oppressed right now, there is going to either be a dire urge and need to free ourselves from it, or to be emancipated from it, or eradicated from it, or this exhilarating rite of passage into rebirth around places in our life where we have felt at a loss, where we've been on our knees praying for help, on our knees begging for mercy because of the impossibility of the situation. And the Jupiter Uranus comes in, and it can be that sudden, joyful freedom out of something that has been so incredibly difficult to be in. Insurmountable is a good word. And so this supercharged total solar eclipse is amplifying this need for both autonomy and freedom. But I'm going to circle back around here, which is we have to remember the responsibility that comes with that autonomy, the responsibility to know how to take care of ourselves so that we can be in a place for those around us that we come into contact with to be able to also take care of them in whatever way is right in that moment for you. And that is the beautiful side of how Aries plays into Libra. That when we actually know how to take care of ourselves, the Libra part becomes so deeply satisfied because we're able to come into relationship from a place of regulation, of a calm nervous system, of being in our center, of knowing who we are, knowing what our boundaries are, knowing how to say yes, knowing how to say no. And when we, mess up on that, which we all do, which I do, then we correct for it and we say, hey, I'm sorry, I said I could do this thing, but it turns out I can't. Right? And being more honest with those in our life by being honest first with ourselves about what we can and can't show up for, what we can and can't do given the realistic conditions of our life, right? Not that over promising, not that over giving, but that very grounded, realistic, hey, here I am, and this is what I can do. And you know what? This is what I can't do. And that starts at home. And that starts with our children. And that starts with, hey, I'm not going to have compliance over you and I'm going to support your autonomy, but I'm also here to show you that I'm here and I have boundaries and limits. And that also needs to be respected, not out of fear, because you're going to be kicked out of this family emotionally, financially, psychologically, or spiritually, but because When you get to have your persistent drive for autonomy, the miraculous Libran thing that happens from that Aries place is you willingly choose to want to do the right thing, not because it's moral, but because you want to. And that for me is true freedom. And that for me is the goal of the Aries Libra axis and of this eclipse portal season that we all currently are in, is to remember how to truly come home to ourselves so that we may know how to come into right relation with one another. I'm going to finish up here in a minute. I just want to take a moment to read your comments just to see if there's anything here that I'm needing to see. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here live with me, for letting me know. Oh, you guys, you're so sweet. So sweet. So I want to let you know that a week from today, on Sunday, April 14th, you are all invited to my Jupiter Uranus talk. It's going to be a free astrology talk. You can register for it now at trustpsyche.com at the homepage. And you just sign up and we'll send you the link. And I'm going to talk for an hour on my understanding of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, and then there'll be Q&A for anybody who wants to ask questions. I also want to say this is an extremely powerful time to get an astrology reading. For those of you who would like to do that, especially in a way that isn't just about insight, but also can be about ritually living into this eclipse season for you. My husband, Travis DiRuzza, is giving readings right now. And you can contact him at travis@trustpsyche.com to do a reading with him. And eclipse season is a potent time no matter what. And so when we do a reading and we go into that sacred space in or around eclipse season, it can just bring the same kind of amplification process that I've been talking about here today within the reading itself. I just want to see here if there's any last things that I want to say before I end. Every human can be selfish. We all are at different times, some of us more than others. And I just want to say that though the shadow of Aries is selfishness, and sometimes that can be rampant or seemingly rampant in our world today, the beautiful side of it is what I think astrology is all about: knowing thyself. The more we know ourselves, the more we know who we are, the more we know what we want, the more we know what triggers us and activates us. And the more we're willing to look at that instead of blaming our life, the people in it, or our circumstances, the more of an empowered place that we're in. And I want to say this: when we're in ourself, which is what Aries is about, we're in our power. And what I know about human beings is that when we're in our power, we're usually feeling and therefore doing our best in life. And I know for me that I have needed a lot of love and compassion from the people in my life to support me in knowing who I am and how to come home to myself, which is a daily revelation. And something in my shadow as an Aries moon and North Node in Aries, which is this: I can get defensive, especially with my closest loved ones who matter to me the most, when they say, "Hey, Jess, you did something that I didn't like." And just this past week, my husband said to me, "Hey, I was just trying to let you know that you were doing something that I thought maybe later you would regret. And I was just trying to let you know that." And he got defensive. And what ended up happening was when you get defensive like that, um, I feel like it's not safe for me to come to you and tell you what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking, because I love you and I want the best for you. And it makes me feel like I'm not allowed to say these things to you. And at first, I got defensive about that. I got, like, for a few days, pretty defensive about that. Um, and then I remembered, hey, I trust this person and they care very much about me and we're on the same team. And that's the beautiful side that Aries needs to remember with the Libra axis, which is, and this is the South Node there right now. Who are the people on your team? Who are the people you genuinely trust? Keep them close, listen to them more than most, and if possible, ask them, hey, is there anything you think I'm blind to right now? Do you think there's anything I'm being selfish around? Do you think there's anything I might be being defensive around right now? And to receive that, I think, is one of the most powerful forms of connection and intimacy that we can have as humans. So the South Node reminds us to keep our friends and loved ones very close that we trust during these times. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you'll join me next weekend. And as always, I always love to hear from you. So please leave a comment. I respond to everything here on my channel. If you're not already subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe. You can also go to trustpsyche.com, and when you put your email address in there, you get notified right away whenever I'm giving a talk, I have a class, there's an event, and I also write articles and blog. So I would just love for you to join me in any way that feels right for you. You can also follow me on Instagram at trust.psyche. All right, everyone, I'm sending you so much love and blessings during this total solar eclipse. All right, y'all. See you next time.